I'm going to talk about The Social Network, the David Fincher film from like 2010, 2011 that came out and was the big darling of the time. And it was like, oh, this is Fincher's step up to be a major director and do respectable films rather than some of those dodgy films he's been doing about serial killers and all the rest of it. And he went on to be a film about a serial killer right after it, as if to say, I'll do what I want. And also in Hollywood, it's a case of, it's like they like you to be respectful sometimes, but they also like you to make money for them, and be a commercial director. So it's a case of go back and making some money now. You've done your art house film that made money, but let's go back to normal stuff. So didn't quite work out. Fincher following this actually. He did go Durango 2, then he did Gone Girl, and then he had problems getting financing, so he ended up going to Netflix a lot. And so he had a lot of films in this decade following this film that didn't go anywhere. So now he's doing a lot of films on Netflix. So he did The Killer, I've reviewed recently. He did Mank, which I've covered in the past. So he's done stuff on Netflix, basically, because they seem to give him money to make films. So he made Mank, which was a passion project. Then he made The Killer, which was a more commercial project, but it still had a lot of Fincher stuff in it. Now, Fincher's a weird director because he's visually brilliant, but as I've complained about in the past, sometimes the scripts he chooses can be a bit obvious. It's like it becomes a problem of a director who's so visual that sometimes they choose scripts that like to over-explain certain things. This film doesn't do that too badly. I mean, Benjamin Button, which did before this, did it much worse for over-explaining stuff you didn't need to know and have the film go like an hour longer than it needed to be. That's what it felt. I enjoyed the film, but it felt like it was too long for what it was. And with Fincher, a lot of time you feel like there could be like 15 minutes taken out and it would have been a much more efficient film. But they're still well-made films. They're still very good films. And Social Network is one of his better films, actually. I mean, it has the good and the bad of Aaron Sorkin as his writer. Aaron Sorkin's a writer who loves dialogue and who loves to have characters talk and talk and talk, which is good for certain projects. Like in this one, you need someone who's good at that. But if he's not like hemmed in, he can also have characters talk to nonsensical degrees where it's just like, please have some visual stuff. Luckily with Fincher being there, even though the visuals are muted compared to some of his other films, there's still a lot of visual stuff, so you never feel that the film's talking to you all the time. It's going back and forward in time as you're going from depositions. So this is all about the creation of Facebook. So you have depositions of these lawsuits, and it's explained to you how Facebook began. And it's very fast in its feet, and it's all about the story of Facebook. So it's told in the order, but because you've got these depositions going on, you're hearing the point of view of different people of how it actually was created. And it creates this rational effect of who's telling the truth, but it's not really, because you can kind of tell what the truth is. So there's not ambiguity there. It's much more about seeing what the truth is and seeing how people explain themselves for their own advantage. So it's not really Rashomon, but it's taking some of the tropes of you're telling a story, but you're giving an idea of there are various points of view of how it happened. But it's not like ambiguity. It's much more like we'll tell you what happened in one way, then another, and you're hearing from a point of view what happened. And then you can figure the rest out by yourself. It's not saying this is exactly what happened, but you can figure out what you think about the situation as you go. And that works the film, because it allows the film to keep moving, and not get sidetracked with lots and lots of talk. Because it's just like, the actors felt like they were told, you have to go fast with this dialogue, you have to keep going, moving fast. And then when we stop the talk, that kind of gives it the gravity and the pacing it needs. Because one of the Sorkin things is sometimes his films have so much talk, the pacing's all off because you don't get the breathing time between scenes sometimes feels off. In this film, it doesn't feel that way at all. It feels like it's the right amount of space between the scenes that are where you're meant to be paying attention on when you're not, when you're meant to be getting the atmosphere. So when the scenes come, they hit hard. I mean, that's a big thing about writing is balance. Now, if you look at the Sorkin films he's made as a director, the balance is off. He's not visually interested enough. And he's taken to trying to ape what Fincher did in this film, but he's not as good as Fincher. And it's like, it's one of those things where there's the balance, like his kind of weakness for 200 verbiage comes across, and the actors are indulged a little bit more. Where Fincher does take after take after take after take and breaks down a lot of the actor inflections. So he's much more Kubrick-like in that thing where an actor might think they're going to show off and show how great they are, but at the end of it, there are 20 takes of this one scene. And that wears them down, and what it does is actually just pares down the actual nonsense. I mean, the other way to do it is what Robert Bresson did, was where he hired non-actors and lose the blankness to take away that kind of fakery that actors can bring, and if the director's weak, it can destroy a project. I mean, I would say a good 90% of the films made today and TV are destroyed by actually inflections, either being like mopey or being self-indulgent. There's so much of it where it feels they're not actually focused on the text, or the text's so terrible they have to do something to avoid it. But it feels like there's so much bad acting because there's no point to most of it, and there's no one saying, no, that's not right, this is right. Now, I've just covered Sweet Smell of Success. It's another film where the director had control of his actors and his text. And you can really tell when that happens because there's just a sense of purpose. And the actors are just better and they feel leaner. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg, who plays Mark Zuckerberg, the guy who invented Facebook, is an actor I like a lot. But in the wrong hands, he can be actorly. He can be just over the top and trying things, and if someone doesn't say, oh, no, don't do that, he can go off in a weird direction. I mean, anyone who's seen his Lex Luthor knows he could be, if he'd been contained, they could well have found a version of Lex Luthor that worked. But it wasn't really contained by the director. The director just let him do whatever he wanted, basically. And it kind of made his performance self-indulgent. Andrew Garfield's another actor who needs a strong director. He can be a bit over-emotional in some of his projects. In this one, he's emotional, but it's toned down. Fincher doesn't let him overdo it, so it has an effect. And he's also playing a guy who's not that bright, but he thinks he is. And he's up against Eisenberg, who's playing a character who is as bright as he thinks he is. So it creates a nice tension between them, even though for a long time in the film they're friends. And you have two different styles of actors who are put together. One is more intellectual, one's more emotional, but it really works. A lot of supporting actors, they all work too. Even Justin Timberlake's good in this film, playing this sleazy guy. Especially Sean Parker, who's an entrepreneur. I think he objected to his portrayal in this film. But it's a film, it works as a film. I mean, I'm sure Zuckerberg isn't the same as Jesse Eisenberg, and the guy Andrew Garfield played isn't quite the same either. It's interpretation of them. And it's there. I mean, I think Fincher's very good at saying we're doing a fictionalization of it, really. It's a story, but it's also, we have to make a film that works and have characters that work as film characters. So the film is ostensibly at the beginning of Facebook, but it's really about a startup and what happens in a startup of a company, of lots of ideas going round and how it forms into something. And this is the didactic part of Sorkin, because he's this point of view in the film I don't think Fincher really shares, that Facebook's a social network that's created by a guy who's very antisocial. And yeah, Zuckerberg, as presented in this film, has some antisocial tendencies, but he's also just very driven. And the other characters around him, a lot of the time, feel like they're characters who have more social niceties, but they're actually more dysfunctional than Zuckerberg is. They just don't know it. He is who he is. The other characters are who they present themselves to be, and that's not them ultimately. And that's what I was saying earlier on about the film is, it's like they present themselves as one thing, and then when you see the film, you have the option to say, yeah, that's accurate or that's not accurate. But a lot of the time, it's not who they actually are, and you get to see that in the film as it progresses. Like, this is not actually what they are. They just want you to think that's what they are. That's the big difference. And so you have all the different people suing him. So you have Eduardo, who's played by Andrew Garfield, who's his best friend, and who was his thing man on Facebook when he first started it. And he put up the money, the seed money for it. But as the film shows, as they went on, his view of how to monetize that was completely different from everyone else's. Like, he wanted to advertise and no one was interested. No one was interested in the company itself. No one was interested outside the company. No one cared. It wasn't really what it was needing for that time, and he wouldn't listen to anyone else who said, look, this is the wrong approach. He just didn't get it. And that becomes the thing that drives a wedge between him and Zuckerberg in the film, where basically Zuckerberg says, no, that's not the way you do it. And he's going, yes, it is. And he goes out and he spends, while the whole Facebook has been taken to all these investment companies and who are going to invest in it, he can now try to get basic advertising. He's not there when a lot of the work's done, and he's not there when a lot of the decisions are made. And ultimately, he goes back, in the film, he goes back to college, even though he's already created a company that means he didn't need to go to college. And so why did he take his hand away when he was needed most? And why was he not there? And that becomes the big thing, is what he says happened. Then where you think, just by watching the situation, it's like, it's not really that though. It really feels like he's misunderstood what is needed for this company, because he's a very traditional way of, this is how you pay for things, and he has not moved with the future. So you've got the two philosophical disagreements between someone who sees the future as investment and a non-traditional way of doing it, which is where Facebook would go, and someone who did a very traditional way, and he would not be told, that's not how you do this, and he couldn't get his head around it. So from his point of view, he was screwed out of billions of dollars, and from other people's point of view is he never listened to anybody, and he was actually getting in the way, and they had to kind of get rid of him because he was just kind of mucking things up. And so you have that kind of tension, and the film shows it from the different angles of what he says and then what Zuckerberg is saying, no, that's not true. And then you're getting the impression through what they're telling of what the reality might have actually have been. You also get the Winklevoss twins who try to get Zuckerberg to do a social network for them around about the same time he's doing Facebook. And because he was doing Facebook, he never bothered. And he said, look, I never used any of the code from your idea for Facebook. This was just another social network thing. And he did his and he never told them. And they said, oh, he stole our idea. But there's already a lot of social networks out there like MySpace. So it was a kind of case of, he didn't do much work for you. So it was a case of, it was an idea that wasn't just a one-person idea. It was an idea that was already around. But they're saying, oh, because you said you'd help us, and you never did, and you did set up the rivals, that's why we're suing you. And you get it from their point of view of, as they go through the traditional routes of trying to talk to him, trying to sue him, going through Harvard and everything else, just been told no, no, no. Eventually it's a big lawsuit. And their story is a lot funnier in the sense is like you're seeing the frustration of these entitled guys who feel they should have got something, but as you can see as the film progresses, they did not know how to code. They did not know how to. They did not understand the reach of what Facebook could be. They wanted an exclusive thing that was, which was against what the Facebook idea was, which was basically everybody. There was no person in charge. Everybody had their own group of people rather than this entitled Harvard thing they wanted to do. So Facebook was the exact opposite of what they were up about. So it allows you to work out, oh yeah, that's the reality is different. What they're saying is from my interpretation, but legally they have a claim because they were working with him at the time he created Facebook, and it's like, okay, and what's the legal ramifications of this? But you can watching the film, you can see what they're saying, and what from just from objective thing of what Zuckerberg is saying, what Facebook is. It's two different things, and it's really about the whole thing is this: all these depositions is the people doing them think it's really important, and Zuckerberg's bored it's called the whole way through these things, and you're seeing a lot of his character because he wants to get back to work. He's trying to build this thing, and that's where Fincher seems to be. He seems to admire Zuckerberg's approach of just keep going, keep going, keep going. And a lot of the people he's working with are actually just trying to make this thing work. And that's the strength of the film, is Eisenberg's performance as Zuckerberg as a character who's just trying to he's not socially brilliant, he's got his problems, but he's just trying to make this thing work. And trying to work within his social circles to get it to work. And dealing with human beings who are very irrational. And the resolution of this is people get paid off a lot of money for not doing much. That's how it seems in the film anyway. And it's like, okay, you get your money, but you're no longer part of Facebook. And the people who were involved and actually were there the whole time got much richer than anyone who kind of fell off to the side. And it's like one of those things where everybody get rich, so nobody lost out on it. So it's a film about, you can say it's greed, but it's more about delusion. And are you honest with yourself or are you not? And how that can affect people really is like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is there a reason why people are mad at me, or is there not? Zuckerberg doesn't care, and the Garfield character does care, but he seems to care about all the wrong things. Within the context of this film, of what we see, the character always feels like he's worried about the wrong things. Like he's always the character who's got the kind of home run ahead of him, and he just steps back a little bit. Instead, he always seems to clutter things up and make it hard for himself. And it's a film just about delusional people and how businesses build up and why people are tossed aside. A lot of the time it's a case of your view of how this work doesn't work for anyone else. It's not like usually when you find out people leaving something or people fed up with something, a lot of the time it's just literally a case of, I don't want to do this thing, I would rather go do something else because this is not what I want to do. And there's a lot of self-justification and sides of people leaving and sides of people who stay, but what happened and why. But it's always really about what you want the thing to be in the first place, and how difficult it actually is, and how companies can get waylaid by lots of different reasons, and how things can fail for lots of stupid things of not understanding what you need to be to make it work, and being traditional when you shouldn't be, or being non-traditional when you should be traditional. And it's like there's lots of different elements to the film. So this is a very good film, very well made. I don't think it's Fincher's best film. It gets a reputation for one of his best films. I think it's a very good film, but the kind of obviousness of some of Sorkin's stuff with the antisocial Zuckerberg does feel a bit weird, because it's not that he's not antisocial, it's just like it could have been written a bit more subtly in certain places. Sometimes it's trying to make a point when no point is really needed. So it's a very good film. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you go and see the film if you've not seen it. But that's me for now. Right, bye.